basketball field, tennis court, arcade machines. One interesting thing that nearly all games have in common is that there's always a special field or space with special equipment, just like some sort of ritual. In the realm of modern digital games, when players hear the theme music in Monster Hunter, or the bartender's voice pull up a chair by the hearth in Hearthstone,
it's good to see you again.
They know they have entered a special field. Actually, this peculiar phenomenon has baffled people for decades. Early in 1938, almost a century ago, Dutch historian Johan Huizinga proposed a theory which is called the magic circle. It is, as Huizinga states, a temporary world within the ordinary world, dedicated to the performance of an act apart. He thinks that there are dangers in the real world that will be a threat to games, thus granting the need for a magic circle to protect games from the outside. It makes sense at first glance. Well, games have some qualities of performance, such as specific rules, role-playing, costumes, and nobody wants to be judged by others for obeying these odd rules. However, 20 years later in 1958, French philologist Roger Caillois directly countered the idea of the magic circle in his book Man, Play, and Games. Instead of a protection shield from the real world, the magic circle serves as Caillois reckons, a field that protects the real world from games. He thinks that games are often dangerous and have a tendency of corrupting into something detrimental to society, such as gambling and drug addiction. Even though the two scholars hold completely different views on the function of magic circle as regard to individuals or societies, they seems all acknowledge the magic circle as a closed system, separate from real life. However, in this video, we try to prove the porosity of the magic circle as regard to real life, by approaching the question from game addiction, a question that bothers people for such a long time. In face, we should say that the concept of the magic circle cannot be considered a truly enclosed space due to the nature of digital game addiction which, if not treated properly, always affects real life. Naturally, the popularization of digital games and video games brings the rise of game addiction. It is not necessarily that modern games have more of an addictive quality than the original Pac-Man or Tetris, but that games are much more affordable and more easily accessible. The late 1970s to early 1980s was the golden age of arcade games. Video games rose in popularity extremely quickly during this time due to technological development and pop culture influences. However, during this time if you wanted to play video games you had to make the effort to leave your house and make your way to a local arcade. And even then, these places had hours of operation and a fee to pay every time you wanted another round. In 2016, the American Community Survey found that almost 90% of households had a computer. As technology advances, it has become more of a necessity than a luxury, especially in our current digitally remote state, thanks, COVID. Practically every American household has a computer and a few smartphones. These devices are fastly expanding portal to countless of free, digital games. While not everyone can afford to buy the newest console and the best AAA games of the season.
Alright, Morty, go. Talk about the thing. They paid us a lot.
Okay, yeah, this is the PlayStation 5. It's really fast.
Yeah.
These things are not a necessary investment to be able to play games. As opposed to only 40 years ago, anyone can play video games, and you don't need to leave the comfort of your home. So with digital games being so easily accessible, addiction to digital games is not an unheard of concept. In fact, plenty of official documentation has recognized this as an issue. In Section 3 of the DSM-5, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, it goes by the name of Internet Gaming Disorder. Here, it is called a disorder, or an illness, that disrupts normal physical or mental functions. The American Psychiatric Association, the association in charge of writing the DSM, brings up relevant studies done on young males in regards to Internet gaming disorder. Most worryingly, the studies suggested that when these individuals are engrossed in internet games, certain pathways in their brains are triggered in the same direct and intense way that a drug addict's brain is affected by a particular substance. Here, the APA is comparing internet gaming disorder to an addictive disorder, specifically comparing it to substance abuse. But just how addictive are video games? And is this a bad thing?